It's 2009 and Avatar just got released. On top of making all the money in the world and thrusting technology into the digital age, it also crafted a beautiful world, Pandora.
On Pandora.
You should see your faces.
It was unlike anything we've experienced before. But how did they do it? Whether you love or hate this franchise, you cannot deny how striking the world is visually. So how did Cameron and his creative team do this? How did they achieve this? We're going to explore how Cameron and his team drew from biology, anthropology, and architecture in order to craft a story world that I think deserves a little bit more attention. Because to me, Avatar's story is told through architecture. When you think Avatar, you think blue. It's something that just hooked us from the start. Blue is a color our brains instinctively read as safe, calming, and open. So our bodies physically respond to it. There's actually something called the blue mind effect when people feel happy or calm when they see or they're near a body of water. Like if you ever stood near a waterfall or ocean, you probably know what I mean. We crave environments that make us feel this way, and Pandora gives it to us. We are in awe. Something that's really interesting is that Cameron knows this. Cameron gives us awe by choosing blue as his color palette. But that's not all that's going on. James Cameron wanted to create Pandora based on biology and real-world physics, like this. The sea of stars in the Maldives. At night, it glows. It feels like something that shouldn't exist, but it's real, and it's called bioluminescence. It's the ability of living organisms to produce a chemical reaction in their body that gives off a light, often blue or green. Like, for example, jellyfish or even fireflies. When filmmakers or architects make design decisions, they try to elicit an emotional response. The world of Pandora is built on that idea. It literally hooks us in. We are in awe. It just feels more alive than real life. I would love to live there. I grew up by the ocean, so Pandora feels strange but familiar. So on some level, I understand why people resonate with this world. But how would we live in harmony with it? Enter the Na'vi. They are the native species of this world. The Na'vi live in harmony with their environment, and they are a clever species. Do you see these ropes, these structures? They are made with readily made available materials nearby. The architecture of Pandora was inspired by this concept called vernacular architecture, which literally means everyday. Architecture using everyday things in everyday life. Now, what's really clever about this is that we see it in our own world too. Take a look at these elevated dwellings. Homes lifted off the ground to avoid flooding, humidity, and insects. That's Southeast Asia. That's the Amazon. There's countless regions in the world that learned how to live with the environment rather than against it. Architects and anthropologists have long pointed out that this reflects indigenous building traditions. This knowledge of construction is something James Cameron saw firsthand in his conversations with the Kayoko tribe. So the Na'vi homes aren't that alien after all. It's this idea that architecture should adapt to the climate, not force the climate to adapt to us. Here's the best part. How the Na'vi use these materials is actually really good for the environment as well. The use of rattan-like structures, leaf canopies, woven facades, and forms that feel grown rather than built. This is all incredibly symbiotic. We instinctively look at Na'vi structures and think, yeah, that makes sense. They really developed sustainable architecture for the world of Pandora. You feel like you could live there in harmony with nature, but that harmony is a point of contention that Cameron exposes so well in this story. We are living in an increasingly fragmented world, post-pandemic, environmentally, politically, and we are all feeling some dread. What Pandora does so well is that it relieves us of that. Pandora is an incredible place, and the Na'vi show us what it means to have a deep connection with nature, especially when you compare it to how humanity treats the environment. Yes, we have classic story beats: initiation, chosen family, exile and return, atonement. But underneath all that, what we're really watching is two different relationships with the environment. On one side are people who live with their world, building climate-responsive homes that breathe, adapt, and belong to the landscape. On the other side, a society that sees the land as a resource. Buildings designed for speed and efficiency. Materials shipped from elsewhere. For those people, the environment isn't something to respond to. It's something to control. It really makes Avatar difficult to watch because it mirrors exactly what we do here on Earth. Instead of adapting to the land, we seal interiors, burn fuel, and control the climate. This way of shaping the world is known as anthropogenic design, where landscapes are altered for economic value rather than ecological function. In fact, there was a notable psychological phenomenon where viewers were actually depressed when they were leaving the theater. So when we left the theater asking ourselves, how did they do it? It's because they exposed us to things about the real world. Avatar isn't just warning us about destroying nature. It's showing us what happens when architecture stops responding to the world and tries to override it. So when we distill everything down with humans and the environment, we're left with one simple truth. There are two ways of living. One that works in harmony with the planet, and the other that consumes worlds. Avatar shows us an incredible place, not just to admire, but to feel. For a moment, we don't just watch a world, we imagine living in one. Not because Pandora doesn't exist, but it reminds us of something that we're missing, something that we are taking for granted. There's awe everywhere if we just take the time to look. Pandora isn't really a fantasy, it's a mirror. And as someone who designs real-life spaces, that realization is something that's hard to ignore. So after everything said, and after everything we've watched, there's only really one question to ask. If Pandora existed, would you want to live there too?